I came back from medical treatment overseas and found my daughter calling another man Dad. The customs agent at Frankfurt Airport stamped my passport without looking up. 20 months since I'd flown out of Philadelphia on a one-way ticket, convinced I'd die in Germany. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer with a 3% survival rate. The experimental immunotherapy trial in Munich was my last shot, and American insurance had laughed when I'd asked for coverage. We'd remortgaged the house, cleaned out the retirement accounts, borrowed from my brother, anything to buy more time. The flight attendant helped me with my bag. I'd lost 60 pounds during treatment, my body carved down to essentials. But the last scan had been clear, completely clear. Dr. Hoffman had shaken my hand with tears in his eyes, called me his miracle patient. I'd survived something that killed 97% of people diagnosed with it. Coming home felt like resurrection. Sarah's texts had been sparse the last few months. Busy with work, Emma doing great, miss you. I'd understood. 18 months of managing everything alone while I fought for my life halfway across the world. The treatment protocols had been brutal. Weeks where I couldn't hold a phone, months where speaking took more energy than I had. She'd carried our family through hell. I couldn't wait to hold her, to see Emma, to start rebuilding. The cab dropped me at our house in Chestnut Hill at 4 in the afternoon. October light filtered through the oak trees lining our street. Everything looked the same. The blue shutters I'd painted 3 years ago, Sarah's garden boxes full of autumn mums, Emma's bicycle leaning against the garage. Home. The word felt foreign after 20 months of sterile hospital rooms. I used my key. The lock had been changed. My hand froze on the knob, key dangling uselessly. Maybe Sarah had upgraded security while I was gone. Made sense with her living alone. I rang the doorbell, suddenly aware of how much I'd been counting on just walking in, surprising them. A man answered. Tall, maybe 40, wearing khakis and a blue button-down like he'd just gotten home from an office job. He looked at me with polite confusion. Can I help you? Behind him, I could see our living room. Different furniture. The couch we'd bought together was gone, replaced by a leather sectional I'd never seen. The family photos that used to line the mantel were different too. New frames, different faces in some of them. My throat tightened. I'm David Brenner. This is my house. Where's Sarah? The words came out rougher than I'd intended. 20 months of German hospitals had made my voice unfamiliar even to myself. The man's expression shifted. Recognition. Then something harder. You need to leave. Now. He started closing the door. I pushed forward, not aggressive, just desperate to understand what was happening. Daddy, who's at the door? Emma's voice from deeper in the house. My daughter. 7 years old now, though I'd left when she was 5. I'd missed 2 birthdays, a year and a half of her life, but she was here, right here, and I needed to see her. The man blocked me completely now. I'm calling the police. Sarah! I shouted past him. Emma! It's Dad! I'm home! Emma appeared at the end of the hallway. She'd grown so much, taller, her hair longer, wearing clothes I didn't recognize. She looked at me with no recognition at all, just a stranger at her door. Mommy, there's a man yelling. Sarah came down the stairs, her hand on the railing. She saw me and stopped. The color drained from her face. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. We stared at each other across the length of our home, across 20 months and 6,000 miles, and something that had broken so completely, I couldn't yet see the edges of it. David's dead. Her voice was barely a whisper. You're not real. The man wrapped his arm around her shoulders. She leaned into him like he was the only solid thing in a tilting world. I'm not dead. I'm standing right here. Look at me, Sarah. The scan was clear. I beat it. I came home. My voice cracked. Emma was crying now, pressing herself against Sarah's legs. The man pulled out his phone. Yeah, I need police at 1847 Rosewood Drive. There's a man claiming to be the deceased homeowner. He's trying to force entry. The clinical way he said it, deceased homeowner, like I was already a ghost. I stood there on my own porch, the October cold seeping through my jacket, watching my wife comfort my daughter while a stranger called the police on me. This wasn't how I'd imagined coming home. Nothing about this made sense. Sarah's face wasn't showing relief or joy. It was showing terror. The police arrived in 8 minutes. 2 officers, one older with gray in his mustache, one younger who kept his hand near his weapon. I stood on my own porch with my duffel bag while they checked my ID. David Allen Brenner. The address matched. The photo matched, though I looked healthier in the license picture, taken before cancer had hollowed me out. The older officer, Sergeant Murphy, went inside to talk to Sarah while his partner kept me outside. I could hear voices through the open door. Sarah was crying. The man's voice, low and urgent. Emma asking what was happening. The evening was getting cold. I'd forgotten how much colder Philadelphia was than Munich. My hands were shaking, but not from the temperature. Murphy came back out, his expression unreadable. Mr. Brenner, I need you to come down to the station with us. There's been some kind of mix-up. His tone was careful, like he was talking to someone unstable. What kind of mix-up? That's my wife. That's my daughter. I've been in Germany for cancer treatment. I have all the documents. I pulled out the folder I'd carried from Munich. Medical records, treatment summaries, discharge papers, all in German with English translations. Sir, according to Mrs. Sarah Brenner, her husband died 14 months ago. There was a death certificate, a funeral. She's remarried. His voice was careful. The officer watching me shifted his weight, hand still hovering near his belt. I felt the ground tilt. I didn't die. I was in Munich. I have emails, video calls, plane tickets. This is insane. But even as I said it, pieces were clicking into place. Sarah's texts becoming shorter, less frequent. The last video call, 6 months ago, when she'd looked so tired and said she couldn't do this anymore. I'd thought she meant the stress of managing alone. Not this. Never this. At the station, they put me in an interview room. Not a cell, but close enough. Gray walls, metal table, the smell of bad coffee and institutional cleaner. I sat there for 2 hours before a detective came in. Detective Lisa Chen, Homicide Division. That's when I knew how bad this was. She carried a thick file folder, set it down between us with a heavy thud. She laid out the documents like playing cards. A death certificate dated 14 months ago. Cause of death, pancreatic cancer. Place of death, Munich, Germany. Informant, Sarah Brenner. Wife. My hands started shaking. There was a memorial service. She showed me a program printed on cream cardstock. David Allen Brenner, beloved husband and father. Born 1978, died 2023. My photo, the healthy version before cancer, smiled out from the cover. Inside, testimonials from friends. Sarah's eulogy about my brave fight. Emma's drawing of our family with an angel version of me floating above. I stared at my own funeral program. Someone had put considerable thought into it. The paper quality was expensive, the layout professional. She collected life insurance. Chen pulled out more papers. $500,000 from my policy through work. Paid out within 60 days of the death certificate being filed. Bank records showed the deposit, then transfers, new house fund, Emma's education account, a vacation to Disney World 3 months after I supposedly died. I was alive the entire time. My voice sounded distant. I was in treatment, in remission, planning to come home. Chen's expression stayed neutral, but I saw something shift behind her eyes. This wasn't adding up for her either. Can you prove you were in Germany? Every day for 20 months? She slid a yellow legal pad across to me. I need dates, locations, everything you can remember. Documentation. Witnesses. Anything. I wrote for an hour. The clinic name and address. Dr. Hoffman's contact information. The apartment I'd rented near Marienplatz. The cafe where I'd eaten breakfast every morning when I was strong enough. The support group on Wednesday evenings. My treatment schedule. The dates I'd been too sick to leave the hospital. The names of nurses who'd cared for me. Petra with the kind eyes. Mikhail who'd made me laugh through the worst of it. The pharmacist who'd learned to pronounce my name correctly. Every detail I could remember. Proof that I'd existed somewhere while Sarah told everyone I was dead. Chen left with my list. I sat alone with a paper cup of water and the growing understanding that someone had declared me dead while I was fighting to stay alive. Chen came back an hour later with a laptop. Skype call with Munich. Dr. Hoffman appeared on screen, looking concerned. He confirmed everything. My diagnosis, my treatment, my miraculous recovery. He pulled up my file, showing dates and records. The screen filled with German medical documentation, charts tracking my decline, and then improbable recovery. Chen asked him to email official documentation. She closed the laptop and looked at me differently now, not as a suspicious stranger, but as a victim. Mr. Brenner, you're free to go, but I strongly suggest you get a lawyer before approaching your family again. What happened here? She gestured at the pile of documents. This is fraud, multiple felonies. If you go back to that house, it could complicate the investigation. That house is mine. Emma is my daughter. Chen's expression softened. I understand. But legally right now, it's complicated. Your wife filed a death certificate in good faith, supposedly. She remarried. There's a child involved. We need time to sort through this. She filed a death certificate while I was alive. There's no good faith in that. I was sending emails, texts. I called when I could. The anger was rising now, hot and clarifying. When's the last time you spoke to her directly? Chen asked. I thought back. The video call. 6 months ago. She'd looked exhausted, wearing a gray sweater I didn't recognize. Emma had waved from the background. Sarah had said she was overwhelmed, couldn't keep doing this. Then she'd ended the call abruptly. Chen made calls while I waited. Found my emails to Sarah in her account. All of them. Every week for 20 months. She'd been reading them, responding occasionally. Short messages. Busy with work. Emma's fine. Miss you. Nothing about a death certificate or funeral or another man. The prosecutor, Angela Martinez, arrived an hour later. She looked at the evidence spread across Chen's desk with growing anger. This is one of the most brazen cases of insurance fraud I've seen. Filing a false death certificate while the person is alive and communicating? That's not a mistake. That's premeditated. She looked at me. Mr. Brenner, I'm sorry for what you're going through. We're going to need your full cooperation. This is going to get complicated. Martinez explained what they'd uncovered in the last few hours. Sarah had filed the death certificate 8 months into my treatment, right when I'd been at my sickest, when communication had been difficult. She'd used my medical records from the diagnosis, forged a German hospital document declaring my death. The forgery was good enough to fool the insurance company. She'd held a memorial service, invited everyone we knew, posted about her grief on social media, played the devastated widow perfectly. Then 6 weeks later, she'd started dating Kevin Walsh, a financial advisor who specialized in life insurance and estate planning. They'd married 4 months after my supposed death. Fast, but not suspicious for a widow with a young child seeking stability. The man who answered my door, Kevin Walsh. I said his name like a curse. Martinez nodded. He's being brought in for questioning. We're looking into whether he knew about the fraud from the beginning, or if Sarah deceived him too. Either way, he married her knowing she had a substantial life insurance payout. That's going to raise questions. She pulled out more documents. Your brother filed a missing person report 3 months ago, said you'd stopped responding to his emails. We closed it when Sarah provided proof you were in Germany and wished to be left alone. She'd forged emails from me, used my account to send messages to my family saying I needed space, didn't want contact. My brother had backed off, respecting what he thought were my wishes. How did she access my email? I'd changed my password before leaving for Germany. Martinez consulted her notes. She had your laptop, your password saved in the browser. She'd been monitoring your communications, responding as needed, making sure no one questioned her story. When your brother got persistent, she sent him a message saying you were in a bad place mentally, needed time alone. He believed it because it came from your account, my own accounts used against me, my own words, or close enough, weaponized to isolate me while Sarah built a new life. I felt sick. Chen brought me water. You need to stay somewhere tonight. Do you have family nearby? My brother lives in Jersey. I haven't spoken to him in months. He thinks I cut him off. Martinez made a note. We'll contact him, explain the situation. In the meantime, you'll need to stay away from Sarah and Emma. I know that's hard, but any contact could be seen as harassment given the restraining order she filed an hour ago. She what? The room tilted. She filed an emergency restraining order. Claims you're impersonating her deceased husband, that you're dangerous, that Emma is terrified. The judge granted it based on the death certificate and her sworn statement. You can't go within 500 feet of them or the house. My own daughter. Martinez's expression was sympathetic but firm. It's temporary. We'll get it overturned. But right now, legally, you're the interloper. Chen drove me to a hotel near the airport. Budget place that took cash. I sat on the bed, staring at nothing. My phone had dozens of missed calls. My brother, my parents, friends I hadn't spoken to since before Germany. Chen must have contacted them. I called my brother first. David? Oh my God, David? Is it really you? His voice broke. Sarah said you died. She had a funeral. We all went. I couldn't speak for a moment. I'm alive. I was in Germany the whole time. I beat the cancer. I came home and I couldn't finish. He filled in the silence. I'm coming to get you. Stay where you are. Don't go anywhere. I'm leaving now. He arrived 2 hours later. Hugged me so hard my ribs hurt. I hadn't realized how thin I'd gotten until I felt how careful he was being. You look like hell. I feel like it. We sat in his car in the hotel parking lot while I told him everything. The treatment, the months of silence when I'd been too sick to communicate properly, coming home to find Sarah had declared me dead. He listened without interrupting, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. She killed you off. While you were fighting for your life, she erased you and cashed in. His voice was flat with rage. The life insurance, the new husband, Emma calling him dad. It wasn't grief or confusion. It was calculated, premeditated fraud. Martinez called the next morning. We executed search warrants on your house and Sarah's financial records. Found something interesting. She'd been in contact with Kevin Walsh for over a year before you left for Germany. They met at a financial planning seminar she attended. Emails between them discussing your life insurance policy, the payout terms, what would happen if you died. This was before your cancer diagnosis. My stomach dropped. Before the diagnosis? Months before. They were discussing hypothetical scenarios. What if something happened to you? How she'd manage financially. Then you got diagnosed and suddenly it wasn't hypothetical anymore. I felt cold. You think she planned this from the beginning? Martinez's voice was careful. I think when you got sick, she saw an opportunity. Kevin Walsh's interview transcripts arrived that afternoon. My brother read them out loud while I paced his living room. Kevin claimed he'd met Sarah at a grief support group. She'd told him her husband had died in Germany, showed him the death certificate. He'd believed her completely, helped her file the insurance claim as a professional courtesy, started dating her because he'd genuinely fallen for her. The investigators weren't buying it. His emails with Sarah predated my supposed death by 14 months. They'd been planning something. Whether it was my actual death or just declaring me dead, they'd been conspiring. Kevin's lawyer had advised him to stop talking. Smart move. He was in this deep enough to drown. Sarah's interview was different. She stuck to her story. David died in Germany. I received notification from the hospital. I filed the death certificate in good faith. I held a memorial service because our daughter needed closure. I moved on because I had to survive. When the detectives showed her the emails I'd sent from Munich, time-stamped and verified, she claimed they were fake. Someone hacking my account. When they showed her Dr. Hoffman's sworn statement, she said German doctors make mistakes. When they pointed out I was sitting in a police station very much alive, she said I'd abandoned my family and was now trying to ruin her new life. The cognitive dissonance was stunning. She couldn't admit the truth because it would destroy everything she'd built. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the following week. Martinez filed for emergency custody of Emma. The judge looked at the evidence, the death certificate filed while I was alive, the insurance fraud, Sarah's refusal to acknowledge reality, and placed Emma in temporary foster care. Both Sarah and I were denied custody pending investigation. I sat in the courtroom watching my daughter being led out by a social worker. She looked back once, confused and scared. She didn't know who I was. In her world, her father was dead and buried. This stranger, claiming to be him, was just another source of chaos. That hurt worse than anything Sarah had done. My parents flew in from Arizona. They'd attended my memorial service. Mom had given a eulogy. Dad had cried. They'd mourned me while I was lying in a hospital bed in Munich fighting for every breath. Seeing them walk into my brother's house, seeing their faces when they realized I was real, was surreal. Mom touched my face like she needed physical proof. We buried you. We said goodbye. There was a casket. What was in it? I asked. Mom looked at Dad. Nothing. Sarah said you'd been cremated in Germany. She had an urn with your name on it. Sat on the mantel during the service. I felt sick. She'd thought of everything. The forensic accountant's report came back. Sarah and Kevin had spent $300,000 of the insurance money already. New house, new car, private school for Emma, the Disney vacation, renovations, furniture. They'd burned through more than half the payout in 14 months. The rest was in accounts they'd set up in Emma's name, untouchable without court orders. But the paper trail was clear. Kevin had advised Sarah on how to structure the payouts to avoid suspicion. He'd helped her file the insurance claim. He'd been involved from the start. His lawyer was now claiming he'd been deceived by Sarah. She'd manipulated him, forged documents, played the grieving widow. He was a victim too. The prosecutor wasn't buying it. You're a financial advisor specializing in life insurance. You didn't question a death certificate from a foreign country? Didn't verify the death independently? Didn't find it suspicious that your girlfriend had $500,000 and a newly deceased husband? Kevin's defense was falling apart. They charged him with conspiracy to commit fraud, insurance fraud, and falsifying documents. Sarah got the same charges plus identity theft for accessing my email and forging communications. Bail was set at $500,000 each. Ironic amount. Neither could make it. They sat in county jail waiting for trial. Emma's caseworker, Jennifer Oakes, contacted me. She wanted to arrange supervised visitation. Emma doesn't remember you. You need to understand that going in. To her, you're a stranger who caused her mother to go away. This is going to be difficult. We met at a child services building. Sterile room with a plastic table and uncomfortable chairs. Emma sat across from me, Jennifer beside her. She looked at me with suspicion. My mom says you're not my real dad. My real dad is in heaven. I pulled out my phone, showed her pictures from before I left. Emma at 3, at 4, at 5. Me holding her. Us at the park, at the beach, at her birthday party. She studied them like evidence. That looks like me, but that's not my daddy. That's Kevin. I took a different approach. What's your middle name? She frowned. Rose. Who gave you that name? My mom. Actually, I did. I named you Emma Rose after my grandmother. Your mom wanted to name you Claire. We compromised. You got Emma Rose, and we agreed if we had another baby, your mom could name them. Emma looked uncertain. I pulled out more photos. Your first tooth. You lost it when you were 4. We put it under your pillow. You woke up so excited about the tooth fairy. You have a birthmark on your left shoulder shaped like a heart. You broke your arm when you were 3, fell off the swing set. You were so brave at the hospital. Each detail chipped away at her certainty. Jennifer stopped the visit after 30 minutes. Emma was crying, confused. The world she'd known for 14 months was cracking. Kevin was her daddy, but this stranger knew things only a real parent would know. She left without saying goodbye. Jennifer gave me a sympathetic look. This is going to take time. Sarah did a number on her. Parental alienation is a form of abuse. Emma's going to need serious therapy. I drove back to my brother's house feeling hollowed out. I'd survived cancer only to lose my daughter anyway. Not to death, but to something worse. Sarah had killed me in Emma's mind, made me a ghost while I was still breathing. The trial started 3 months later. I'd spent that time in supervised visits with Emma, slowly rebuilding. She'd started calling me David instead of that man. Progress, Jennifer said. Baby steps. The prosecution laid out their case methodically. My medical records from Munich, the emails I'd sent Sarah while she was planning my funeral, the forged death certificate, the insurance payout, Kevin's emails with Sarah discussing my policy before I was even diagnosed, text messages between them after I left for Germany, excited messages. Once the claim pays out, we can finally be together. Everything they'd planned, documented in digital ink. Sarah's lawyer tried to claim she'd been coerced by Kevin. He'd manipulated her, taken advantage of her vulnerable state. She'd believed I was dying, had started grieving early. When Kevin suggested filing the death certificate, she'd been too emotionally destroyed to question it. The prosecutor shredded that defense, showed the jury Sarah's social media posts from Munich, trips to New York, shopping sprees, dinners at expensive restaurants, all while she was supposedly grieving, all funded by money that should have been mine. She wasn't a grieving widow. She was a woman who'd gotten rid of her inconvenient husband and upgraded to a wealthier model. Kevin took the stand in his own defense. Mistake. The prosecutor asked him about his specialty, life insurance and estate planning. You know the industry inside and out? Yes. You know how death certificates work? How insurance companies verify claims? Yes. So when your girlfriend showed you a death certificate from a foreign country for a man she'd been married to for 10 years, a man who'd only been sick for 8 months, you didn't think to verify it? He stammered. I trusted her. You trusted her enough to marry her 6 weeks later? To help her spend $300,000? To move into a house bought with blood money? He had no answer. The jury's expressions said everything. The verdict came back in 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sarah showed no emotion. Kevin put his head in his hands. Sentencing was scheduled for 2 months later. The judge revoked their bail. They'd stay in county until sentencing. I sat in the gallery next to my brother, feeling nothing. Not satisfaction, not relief, just exhaustion. My lawyer approached after. The civil case is next. We're suing for the insurance money, pain and suffering, Emma's therapy costs. We'll get it back. What's left of it anyway. But money wasn't the point. Emma was the point. And she was still in foster care, still calling Kevin her dad in therapy sessions, still looking at me like I was the villain. The sentencing hearing was brutal. Sarah got 10 years. Kevin got 8. Their lawyers argued for leniency. Sarah's children needed her. Kevin was a first-time offender. The judge wasn't sympathetic. You didn't just commit fraud. You killed a man on paper while he was fighting for his life. You stole his identity, his family, his home. You traumatized a child by erasing her father and replacing him with a criminal. You showed no remorse throughout this trial. 10 years is generous. Sarah finally broke, started crying, begging, saying she was sorry, she'd made a mistake. The judge cut her off. Your mistake was getting caught. You'd still be living off that money if Mr. Brenner had died like you planned. He didn't. Now you pay. The custody hearing was separate. Sarah's parental rights were terminated. She'd committed fraud, endangered Emma's welfare, engaged in parental alienation. Kevin obviously had no rights to pursue. That left me. But Child Services had concerns. Emma didn't know me. Placing her with a stranger, even her biological father, could cause more trauma. They recommended a transition period. 6 months of increased visitation, family therapy, slowly building trust before full custody. I agreed. I'd waited 20 months to come home. I could wait 6 more to get my daughter back. Jennifer helped coordinate. Emma came to my apartment twice a week. We did homework, watched movies, slowly became familiar. 4 months in, Emma asked me about Germany, what it was like being sick, if I'd really almost died. I told her the truth, showed her photos from Munich, the hospital room, me with no hair, me so thin I looked like a skeleton, the scars from the port where they'd pumped poison into my veins. She stared at the pictures. You really were sick. It wasn't a story. I was really sick. And your mom knew. She was getting my emails the whole time. Emma's face crumpled. Why would she say you were dead? I don't know, sweetheart. Sometimes people do terrible things. But I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere. She hugged me for the first time. Really hugged me. Not the stiff, obligatory hugs Jennifer supervised. She cried into my shirt. I missed you. I don't remember, but I missed you. 6 months later, full custody was granted. Emma moved into my apartment. We'd sold the house, the one Sarah and Kevin bought with my death money. Used the proceeds to get a place near Emma's school. Fresh start for both of us. She kept a photo of Kevin on her nightstand. Jennifer said that was healthy. He'd been her father figure for over a year. She was allowed to grieve that loss while accepting me as her real father. I didn't like it, but I understood. She'd been victimized too, just differently. Sarah sent letters from prison. Apologies, explanations, excuses. I read them once, then filed them away. Maybe someday Emma would want to read them. Not yet. She was 8 now, doing therapy twice a week, slowly healing. The civil suit settled. Insurance company paid back the full amount plus damages. $3.2 million total. I put most of it in trust for Emma. Used some to pay off my brother, my parents, everyone who'd helped me survive Germany. Donated a chunk to cancer research. The money felt tainted. Blood money, just like the judge said. But it would pay for Emma's education, her therapy, her future. Sarah and Kevin had tried to steal that from her. At least she'd get something from the wreckage. My lawyer said Kevin's parents were trying to contact Emma. Wanted visitation rights. I shut that down immediately. They'd known. Maybe not everything, but enough. They'd watched their son move into my house, play father to my daughter, and never questioned where I was. 2 years after coming home, Emma and I were in a good place. She called me dad now. Not daddy. Not yet. Maybe never. But dad was enough. She'd stopped asking about Kevin. His parents had given up after I'd threatened restraining orders. Sarah would be eligible for parole in 8 years. I'd fight it. But that was future worry. Present was Emma's soccer games, school projects, normal life things I'd thought I'd never have again. The cancer was still in remission. I got scanned every 6 months, always terrified they'd find something. But so far, clear. Dr. Hoffman called occasionally, checking on his miracle patient, asking about Emma. He felt guilty, though I told him he shouldn't. He'd saved my life. What Sarah did with that gift wasn't his fault. Emma asked me once if I hated her mom. We were driving home from therapy, rain streaking the windsheets. I thought about it, gave her an honest answer. I hate what she did. She stole time we can't get back. She made you afraid of me. She chose money over our family. But hate takes energy I don't have anymore. I'm just glad I'm here with you." Emma nodded. "My therapist says she was sick. Not cancer sick. Brain sick. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. I didn't have an answer to that. Maybe Sarah was sick. Maybe she was just greedy. Maybe both. Didn't matter anymore. She was locked up. We were here. That's what mattered. The support group helped. Other parents who'd been alienated from their kids. Different circumstances, same pain. We met Tuesday nights at a community center. Shared stories, strategies, small victories. One dad hadn't seen his son in 5 years. Waiting for him to turn 18, hoping he'd reach out. One mom's ex had taken their daughter to another state, changed her name. She was still fighting in courts. My story was extreme, but the core was the same. Someone had tried to erase us from our children's lives. We'd survived. We were fighting back. Some nights we cried. Some nights we raged. All nights we reminded each other it was worth it. Emma started asking about Germany. Not the cancer part. The country. What it was like. If we could visit someday. I showed her photos of Munich. The old buildings. The Christmas markets. The Alps visible on clear days. She wanted to see where I'd fought for my life. Where I'd won. We planned a trip for when she turned 12. Show her the clinic. Introduce her to Dr. Hoffman. Let her see that Germany wasn't just the place where her mother had tried to erase me. It was the place where I'd survived. Where I'd thought about her every day. Where I'd fought to come home. She needed to see that. Understand that even when she didn't know I existed, I was fighting for her. Kevin got released after 6 years. Good behavior. I heard through my lawyer. He'd moved to another state. Wasn't allowed contact with Emma per the custody agreement. I waited for him to try anyway. He didn't. Maybe prison had taught him something. Or maybe his lawyer had explained that approaching Emma would violate parole and send him back. Either way, he disappeared from our lives. Emma barely reacted when I told her. "Okay," she'd said. "Can we get pizza for dinner?" She'd moved on. He was a chapter in her childhood she'd rather forget. I understood that. Some memories are better buried. Sarah's parole hearing came up when Emma was 13. I flew to the prison with Jennifer, testified about the ongoing therapy, the damage Sarah had caused, the years of rebuilding. The parole board listened impassively. Sarah had been a model prisoner, taught GED classes, completed anger management, found religion, the classic redemption arc. But the board saw through it. They denied parole. Try again in 3 years. Sarah looked at me across the room, mouthed, "I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Sorry didn't give me back 20 months. Didn't undo Emma's trauma. Didn't erase the nights I'd spent thinking I'd never see my daughter again. Sorry was empty. Emma graduated high school near the top of her class. She'd worked hard, made friends, joined clubs, normal teenager things. She'd decided on college in California. Wanted distance. Fresh start. I understood. Philadelphia held too many complicated memories. She'd come back for holidays. We'd video call. But she needed space to figure out who she was beyond the girl whose mother tried to erase her father. I helped her pack. Drove her to the airport. Hugged her goodbye. She whispered thank you. For fighting for me. For not giving up. I watched her walk through security. My miracle. The reason I'd survived Germany. The reason all of it had been worth it. Sarah sent a letter to Emma care of my address. Asked for forgiveness. Said she wanted a relationship when she got out. Emma read it once. Burned it in the kitchen sink. "I'm done with her," she said. "She made her choices. I've made mine." I didn't argue. She was 18. Old enough to decide who deserved space in her life. Some bridges once burned stay burned. Sarah would get out eventually. Maybe try to contact Emma again. But Emma would be an adult by then. Strong enough to shut that door permanently if she chose. I'd support whatever she decided. I'd spent years fighting for her. Now I'd respect her choices. The cancer came back when Emma was 20. Different location. Liver this time. Caught it early. More treatment, more scans, more terror. But I'd done this before. Survived worse. Emma flew home from college. Sat with me through chemo. Held my hand when I got sick. "You're going to beat this," she said. "You're too stubborn to die." She was right. 6 months later, clear scans. Again. Dr. Hoffman called it remarkable. I called it having a reason to live. Emma graduated college the following year. Got a job in San Francisco. Found a boyfriend I actually liked. Built a life. She was happy. That was all I'd wanted. All I'd fought for. Years passed. Emma got married. I walked her down the aisle. Sarah was still in prison. Wouldn't be out for another 2 years. Emma hadn't invited her. Didn't even tell her about the wedding. "Some people don't get to be part of your joy," Emma said. "Not after they tried to destroy it." I understood. I danced with my daughter at her reception. Watched her smile. Thought about the man who'd answered my door 8 years ago. The daughter who'd looked at me like a stranger. How far we'd come from that moment. How much we'd survived together. This was the ending Sarah had tried to prevent. Emma happy, me alive, our family rebuilt. She'd failed. We'd won. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.